Last week, I gave you my first impressions on the Tier 6 premium British battleship HMS Resistance, and today I want to take a second look. In that last video, I did what I like to call live commentary, and that is talking at the same time I'm playing the game. I think it gives you a much better picture of ships in certain cases because I'm playing the ship as I'm speaking rather than cherry picking a good result from a game I played and then giving commentary after the fact. That's, of course, what I'm doing in this video. But this particular game was the one where I realized, you know what, this ship is actually pretty good. I think the first impressions might have given people the impression that it wasn't necessarily a good ship, and I don't think that's the case. You can see a hint of that with this shot against HMS Renown. Our first salvo of the game, it hits him for 16,000 damage. No citadels, but certainly a respectable chunk. Now, for the next several salvos we take, we're not going to get that same amount of damage. We're going to get little bits of armor-piercing chunk damage, even against the broadsides of battleships like this Warspite, which is 15 kilometers away. I think the fact that we fail to get a substantial amount of damage in these salvos must be a product either of the questionable accuracy on this ship, which I think it does have some questionable accuracy, or it could be my aim. I'm open to that possibility as well. I'm not always aiming perfectly with every salvo I take, which sort of leads me into my main point here, which is that on those first impressions, it's important for anybody when they're judging a ship to try to be objective about it. There can be good ships in this game that do not conform to your playstyle and that you can't really make work. There's some ships like that for me, for example. Kronstadt would be one of them. I don't think that's a terrible ship, but I hate playing it and I can't make it work very well. Same is true of a lot of the German cruisers, which a lot of people say are good. I submit that they're mediocre, but that may just be because I'm not very good at playing German cruisers. Now, I think I am very good at playing battleships in general, but even I can be wrong, and it's hard to judge when something is the product of your own skill issue or when the vessel you're playing is actually poor. Which is why I sort of reserved judgment on HMS Resistance in that first impressions video. I don't think it's bad, and you might be disagreeing with me seeing the fairly lackluster damage we're getting against the Warspite or the zero damage at all when our shells just completely miss. But even when we do hit, it doesn't seem like at 18 kilometers these shells really have the punching power. And that may be the case. These guns may not be super accurate, and the AP might not always be getting big, gigantic shots against the broadsides of battleships. But this ship does have quite a bit going for it. Number one would be the, I think, best-in-class concealment. This is a Tier 6 battleship, and I've got the detectability by sea down to 11.4 kilometers, which I think is stealthier than anything at this tier, although HMS Nelson and USS Florida come very close when you spec into their concealment. I think they're about 11.6 km if you use the concealment mod and a rank 16 condo as inspiration the way I'm doing. Well, this has 11.4, and that means so long as nothing is within 11.4 kilometers of us, and nothing is at this point, we're going to go dark as soon as the smoke firing penalty wears off, which is very useful, because if we're not spotted, nobody's going to be shooting at us, and if nobody can see us, then we can push into advantageous positions with our battleship, where hopefully we'll be able to acquire the broadsides of enemy battleships or cruisers. We're staying in the center of the map, though, partly because we've spotted a Błyskawica, which is smoked up in front of us, and earlier on, if we had gone away from the center of the map, it's entirely possible he might have just gone straight through the center and gotten into our base, which obviously would be a problem. But now that he's smoked up and no longer spotting us, well, we were able to push toward his smoke screen, and you can see we've got the HE chambered, partly, I think, because we were getting such poor results with the AP that we switched to the other shell, because at least, the AP is hitting for some overpens a lot of the time against these battleships, and it's doing 1,135 damage. It's not great. Be better to shoot the HE and get some fire to do dots or something like that. That was my thought process and why I switched to HE at that moment. But I'm glad I did. Note that we did get spotted a little while earlier, and that suggests Błyskawica is out of his smoke screen, or it could be the Fubuki that spotted us. You can see he's pushing in toward our cruiser for reasons that are completely unknown to me. I'm not exactly sure what he intends to accomplish except donating his hit points to the blue team's cause, and we're going to collect a couple of those donations there with our HE shells, hitting him for 3k, which not extremely good. He goes dark as he smokes up. We take a blind shot with the back guns and completely miss. To his credit, I don't know if he hit that cruiser with torpedoes or what, but that cruiser has no HP on the blue side, and it is ultimately the cruiser that ends up taking him out, although they trade, and honestly, not a bad trade. A cruiser for a DD? Fair enough. Speaking of DDs, Błyskawica is back 6 kilometers away from us, and he decides, for whatever reason, he is going to start shooting, which is only going to guarantee that he can't go dark and his smoke screen is on cooldown. Here you see one of the great aspects of HMS Resistance, which is its British acceleration and its good speed. Allows us to get out of the way of those torpedoes. They're no threat whatsoever to us, and Błyskawica goes down, leaving only 3 ships left alive. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, you've only done 49,000 damage, and there's only 3 ships left alive on the enemy team. This is not really an example of a great game in HMS Resistance, is it? And no, it probably isn't an example of a great game in HMS Resistance, but it is an example of the damage that this ship can do when it's working. And when I say that, you might be thinking, oh, 49,000 damage? That's not impressive. This ship sucks. Well, just wait. There's still 7 minutes left to go in this game, and plenty of hit points to take. We've got a cruiser and a battleship on one side of the map, and then we've got HMS Warspite over here. You can see he's coming out from behind that island. We've got a Renown with almost no HP pushing into him, requesting support. I'm not sure what support he hopes to obtain, because as soon as that Warspite comes around the corner and sees the Renown on that much low HP, well, I highly doubt the Warspite is going to have a problem taking that guy out. And there you see a good result from the HE, hitting Warspite for 6k and starting a fire. I think switching between the HE and the AP is going to be necessary on this ship, as well as all of the British battle cruisers. These vessels have both good AP and good HE, and each one is more effective than the other in certain scenarios. Like when you're getting bad results from the AP and shooting at angled battleships, maybe you do want to switch to the HE and stack some damage over time. But maybe when a ship like Warspite, which is coated in 25 millimeters of armor and can't really angle against your 15-inch guns, maybe when he's sailing closer toward you, you do switch to the AP and do a fair amount of damage. Warspite goes down. I think, well, he ends up, or he doesn't end up, taking Renown with him. And that just leaves Gneisenau, which is at full health, and another battleship. My team is knocking on the door of the base, so we've got this game pretty much locked down. This is certainly going to be a win. The question is, can this thing do actual damage? And that's what I sort of wanted to discover as I played this ship more, following my first impressions. And the answer is yes. With a combination of both the HE and AP, this thing can deal an effective amount of damage, and it can zip around the map in stealth in order to find very good positions from which to do that damage. There's Helena out there. AP is out, and the results, well, pretty good. Citadel and some penetration damage. Helena, which was at full health, now only has like a bar and a half left, so that's like 7,000 hit points now. And he's going to turn again, maybe, give more broadside to our shells. The dispersion is looking all right, and hopefully this will be the kill shot. But no, we only hit a turret and take that out. Meanwhile, we've got Gneisenau now pushing into us. He's got torpedoes, and we've lost quite a bit of HP. Gneisenau is way, way better armored than HMS Resistance is, so we do need to be careful, and Gneisenau also has torpedoes, but so does Resistance. So we're going to launch them at the Gneisenau after he's shot with his main guns and turn away. If we push straight into him, it's going to be a lot easier for him to torpedo us, but if we're kiting away, it's going to be next to impossible. We just can't get citadeled as we do it, and there we launch 3 shells right into Gneisenau's angled armor, but it looks like he is on a trajectory to go behind the island, which is good for us. It's going to save us from further damage while we deploy this last heal. And of course, we're in no danger of losing this game. This is more an experiment to see what kind of punishment Resistance can take and what kind of damage it can dish out. Our teammates are very close to capping the enemy base, and there's nobody there to stop them. Helena and Gneisenau are far, far over here, and they are not even going to probably be able to shoot at whatever is in their base, because I highly doubt it's even spotted. Helena comes out once more, giving broadside to us. Ill-advised idea, and this time I think he does get punished for it. There's the high caliber, and our first kill of the game, even though it comes in the last 3 minutes. Gneisenau comes around the corner, gets a big hit on whatever the friendly blue battleship is, and there are the torpedoes, demonstrating why you don't push into a Gneisenau or a German battleship with torpedoes. You kite away instead, and there we get the Confederate medal, and the game ends with 120,000 damage done. So the point of this second look at Resistance was to sort of correct my earlier first impressions. I think this ship is good. It has the ability to pump out damage, and it has the ability to zip around the map and find interesting positions, which is important for a battleship. So it's definitely not a terrible vessel, although it's probably not for everybody either. Although the more I play it, the more I like it, and maybe we'll cover it a little bit more later on down the line. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.